Welcome back to positionspecific.com and Coaching Journey 1. Apologise that it's a day late, but it's just been a crazy week. I've been managing a lot of games over the last week or so, so it's just been hard to find some time to put the presentation together. But we're finally on to week 7. So we're going to follow the normal routine. So we're going to start off with a review of the game before, which is Hull City. We're going to have a look at some performance problems. And it was good because Hull City causes a few different problems than what we've been used to. So we had to adapt. So there's some good conversation around that. Then we'll move on to the 3 sessions for the week. Session 2 will be dealing with direct play. Session 3 and 4 we'll start to look at the side connections. And then to finish the video off, we'll look at our game plan for Sheffield United. Thanks again, though, for your support. If you have been liking the journey, don't forget to press the like button and support our channel. Subscribe and press that notifications button so you don't miss our future videos. On to week 7. So just looking at the game review then against Hull City. So we set out in a 4-3-3, moving into 2 systems. The 3-4-3 underneath is something that we had to adjust to in the game. But I'll run through that as we go through the performance problems. So looking at the team identity and targets, as you can clearly see, 50% of our targets were hit. First time that was under our defensive transition target, and that was due to the systems and the style of play of the opposition. Defensive organisation was underneath our target, but the late end of the game, we started to get a little bit more organised and started to stop the opposition getting into our defensive third. Attacking transition, 75% of finding our second pass completion, so happy with that. And then the connection work, we're underneath, and then we think this was just due to us changing the system and the players not being familiar with this. But overall, as you can see here, 50% of the game, we imposed our identity on the opposition. So looking at the performance review, so the first one here is systems of play. So we were a 4-3-3 and Hull City moved into a 4-4-2. We were expecting them to play a 4-3-3, but they changed. So what happened early doors was the distances were too big for us to find the mark and change the mark, especially in the wider areas. So when the ball turned over, they had across their midfield line 4 against 3. So the distances were too big for us to find the mark and change the mark. So what we decided to do as we went on into the game, we changed the system to try and make sure that we can get that defensive transition score up. We eventually moved into a 3-4-3, and as you can see here, that gives us the +1 on the defensive line, and then everything else in your 1v1s or 2v2s, apart from where the forward was. Now, we did this at half time, so looking at our stats, we were obviously quite low up to half time. Then when we changed it, we hit that 70% mark in the second half. But overall, obviously, we're underneath our target. So what we should have done is maybe change a little bit earlier. But we wanted to see how the players would adapt within a 4-3-3 against a 4-4-2. But when we did change, we was a lot better in that defensive transition. So attacking organisation, felt like we controlled the game. Anybody who's seen our game plan from last week, talking about Hull and how we wanted to build, it didn't really affect it too much that they changed the system. So we wanted our fullback to drop down deep and our centre back to stay high. And we're just trying to draw out their left-hand side. But because they changed their shape, they set up still with a right forward occupying our left centre-back, but their left forward then just cut out that middle pass to our 4. So we still had this little overload here and it was fine. But when we played out, it wasn't really penetrating, but we actually got control. So what we said to the players is just go back to our traditional way of playing. So we bumped on the fullback and asked them to play beside or beyond their wide midfielder. We knew then if we could play this little bounce pass, which was actually in our original game plan, to draw in the forward, we then play to the second centre-back. This then shifts their back four and their midfield four. And then all we're trying to do now is to try draw out the second forward, and then we can play into the four and then get out on the other side. If that wasn't on, then we just talked about the little link pass around their left midfielder. And this worked really well. We got control of the game. We dominated the ball, especially in these areas. And we broke their attacking line and midfield line well. So overall, happy with that. So defensive organisation, we actually adjusted this. We got control early in the game, but then we struggled with direct ball. So first 3 or 4 times, when we went into our high press, we won the ball and caused them problems. So then Hull City then started to play one pass and then go long, or even go long straight away from the first pass. And this causes a few problems. So the 2 centre-backs were struggling with the 2 big forwards. So we were just left in a 2v2 physical duel on our defensive line. So they would go long and they'd maybe get a flick on, and then we'd be recovering, and then they'd end up with a throw-in or a corner or a shot on goal. And what was happening is we was obviously committing 6 men to the press, which then allowed them to play the 4v4 on our defensive line. So this was a performance problem. So definitely something that we need to work on. Now, what we did when we adjusted, we asked our midfield and defensive line to just drop slightly deeper and give Hull City that first and second pass to try get them to be comfortable at just keeping the ball, and then us looking to jump press when it's a bad pass or we force a ball wide. We did say to our 9 to just play in between, see if they can lock the play down the side. If they are going to play, do they go over him, which might allow us to go and press, and just see how comfortable it was. And when we changed the shape to 3 at the back, this is what the picture looked like. So we just said to the 2 centre-backs, stay with your man, and then the 4 just sweeps up. And this worked really well. So Hull had more ball in here. Once they played the ball short, we jumped on them and won the ball a couple of times. And when they played long, we had this +1 in here as well. So once we did make the changes, we got to grips of Hull's style, and we got more control of the game in the second half. Again, something that we maybe should have done in the first half, but we wanted to see if the players could deal with the system matchups. So we only picked 3 areas of this week's game review. There wasn't much else that we wanted to talk about, really. We just wanted to highlight the systems of play. We should have changed the systems maybe a bit quicker so we could find the mark, change the mark better and quickly. Attacking organisation, we're quite happy with that. Defensive organisation, again, just another performance problem around the direct play. So because we've become really good at the high press, teams are now starting to panic and go long. So what we need to do is make sure that we can counteract that as well. But it's good overall because it gives us something else now to go and work on next week's training plan. So on to week 7. So 3 sessions this week. Session 1 is going to be around dealing with direct play, something that we've clearly been struggling with. Session 2, we're going to start looking at the connections. This is within a pattern. Then we'll look at small-sided game after. And then session 3, we're going to look at side connections, but within like a small-sided game. And then just a little finishing practice to finish on. And then we'll move on to the Sheffield United game plan. To session 1, dealing with direct play. And we married this up with some IDP work with our centre-backs. So practice 1 was just a real simple technical warm-up. So this is something that we use pre-match. Nothing related to the actual practice. We just wanted the boys to just get a feel of a ball, get the blood flowing while working on their in-possession process. So scan, move, receive, release. It's a real simple practice which had 3 parts. So the 2 are playing to the 4. The 4 makes a little double movement and then takes the ball on the back foot. This, once the players play the ball into the top of the triangle, they must sprint into position. So everything's at a high intensity and a high tempo. Again, the same process. Ball comes in, play to the top of the triangle, touch around the mannequin, and then playing to the next player. And everything's a sprint. So what we're saying to the players there is, can they see the ball, can they see the mannequin, and see the next move? The little movements, just to try create space. Then you're looking at the receiving skills to take the ball on the back foot with an open body shape, and then the detail of the pass. Part 2, we just add 2 1-2s. So now playing to the furthest foot from the mannequin, releasing the ball 1 touch, and just a little 1-2 around the mannequin. Another little 1-2 on the outside, and then the same process follows. Bounce with the furthest foot from the mannequin, play across, and then a little 1-2 at the end. But just making sure that the players are working through their individual process. Scan, move, receive, release. Now on to the last part. So the ball goes into the player here who sets the ball like before and then makes the run around the mannequin. In here now, player receives with an open body and then plays to the 3rd man across the triangle. Player who set the ball now comes in and supports the 3rd man. And you're looking at a little combination here. So a quick 1-2. And then the practice continues. So a little set, open body to see the 3rd man, nice clean pass, and then a good supporting run. So just a good little practice for the players to get warm, but working on that individual performance wheel. So on to the main practice then. 8v8 game, and it's dealing with direct play. So as you can see here, quite a big area of the pitch. We just allowed the players to play for the first part. White's job was to win the ball and score in the 2 goals. Red's just to score in the 1 goal here. Now then what we started to do is we started to manage the Whites and started to ask them to try play a high line. And then we worked with the keeper and the 2 centre-backs, and we're looking for them to penetrate the space and beyond. That then gives us a chance to work with the centre-backs' footwork, movement, how they would manipulate the 9, and like pressing and covering certain areas. So we could really get in some detail here. Now, once that ball's been played, we're looking at like a live game. So the players stay engaged with the practice. If they win it, they open up and then they look to score. So just trying to keep them players engaged so it's not just a stop, stand still practice. Again, what we're looking at here is we're looking at the duels here. So we're saying to the centre-backs is, can you get contact on the ball before the attacker? So if they're trying to pin them, can you get your foot around them and get contact on it? to try and make it really hard for the 9. If they're going to play long, can you get your body across the line of their run? And can you give them a little shove before to try and win the race? So pushing the attacker the opposite way to go and win the race. And like I said, trying to make sure that you can run along their line so they have to go around you. Second centre-back, just getting in and covering quickly. That was just some of the detail that we worked on with the centre-backs. As the session went on, we actually put 2 attackers up against them, and then we allowed the centre-back to clip the ball along as well. So they had to be ready, twist their hips, try to read the triggers and cues of when they were going to go long. And then the detail that we've just spoke around about winning the physical duel before the ball gets there. We also then started to talk about the 4 dropping in between and being an extra player to cover the space. So really good session there to work with the centre-backs on dealing with direct play. So session 2, we're going to look at the side connections and then moving into a high-intensity SSG. So real simple practice. We had our players who predominantly play on the right-hand side, down the right-hand side of the pitch, and then the same on the left. So left centre-back, left back, left attacking midfielder, and left forward. Any players who played down this side or a 9, we just had them off the pitch who just kept rotating with the players. And the same down this side. So the first movement is a quick supporting angle. What I actually did within the session is I got the centre-back to start with the ball, played into the keeper, and then made this movement. So you're looking at that sprint support there. So getting there as quick as possible to get the body open so they can see the connection. So on the first one, we just looked at the full-back sliding beside the mannequin, and then the attacking midfielder to go up and around the cone and then come and support. 7 just holding the outside position of the mannequin. Playing to the 8. The 8 plays the link pass to the full-back, and then we ask the 7 to make the movement on the inside of the mannequin and then attack the outside. Once the 8's played the link pass, can they move round the cone and attack the opposite half? And then we just look for that through ball. The 2 then can play inside or outside. Around that was asking the centre-back to make sure that they move up with the player. So getting into a realistic position of when we're progressing. We also asked the keeper as well to slide and be behind the ball. Same practice down the left-hand side. And you can get these to work at the same time. So midfield low now. So same thing again, quick support. Nice quick support from there. Clean pass from the keeper. And then we're just looking at the midfielder coming into the full-back position. Full-back nice and high. And then 7 on the inside. They had the decision on which pass they wanted to play. So they could play into the 7 who could link or turn. So the same process as before. Or play into the 8 who could travel with the ball. Still looking at them same movements at the top. So inside to outside movements. So when they've played that one into the 11 there, option to turn, play the 3 in, or play the link pass into the 10. Let the players have ownership around what they want to do in that part of practice. And then the final one, wide forward coming down the side, fullback moving into the inside, 8 pushing on to the defensive line. And again, just the same process, can play on the inside or play down the outside. The only difference that we had there is when the wide forward picked the ball, we just look for a little 1-2 around the mannequin. So simple practice, but as a coach, you can get a lot out of this. Key thing for me is timing. They want to be trying to arrive into that space as late as possible, but not too late where they can't open the body up. So it's key that you look at the timing and the connection work. We always say that the attacking midfielder is in charge of the timing and the rotation. So now on to a high intensity game. So we work for 20 minutes in here. It's a high practice load. We work for 3 minutes, rest for 2. Now, when we say we're working for 3 minutes, we tell the players to max out. So run forward, move forward, support quickly. Everything's got to be maxed out. Not too fussed about shape. So if the player 1-2, can they win the back of the player? If they're marked tightly, can they run beyond? So you're trying to get the players to max out in the game. All restarts are within 3 seconds. Throw-ins and goal kicks, but no corners. So that's why we've got the balls around the sides. If the ball goes out, can they get a ball in quickly and play? Once there's a goal scored, so if the Whites score, we're asking them to get back into their own half within 3 seconds to get organised. So you're keeping that intensity. Once the first pass played, find the mark and change the mark as quick as possible. Aggressive play. Ball goes out, 3 seconds to get the ball in. Goal scored, 3 seconds back into their own half. If they're not, give a penalty to the opposition. Be quite ruthless with that as a coach. If they don't get the ball and throw it in 3 seconds or the keeper don't restart, you either fire a ball in or get the opposition to start. And if they're not tired after the 3 minutes, then they're not working hard enough. The hardest thing that we come across is just getting players to stay constantly on the move. What you've got to try and get the mindset is that every movement's a sprint in this game because you're trying to max them out. And we'd do that 4 times. If they're tired after 3, then we'd relax the conditions in the last game. Session 3, looking onto the side connections again, and then moving on to a finishing practice. So this is a 9v7 game, which you can see here. So we're going to be working with the Whites. So we've got the Whites set up on this left-hand side. So you've got the left centre-back, right centre-back, the right back and left back. And then you've got the 2 attacking midfielders. We haven't got the number 4 in the game. And then you've got your 2 wide and no number 9. The Reds are just set up in a 1-4-1 system. So in this first area, it's a 3v1. And all these players are locked into this area. So these will move the ball and look to progress with a pass. If the Reds win it, it's an open game and the Reds look to score in this goal. And then the Whites look to score in this goal. But to start, they're looking at that little 3v1 to find the free player, and then it must be a pass. They're not allowed to travel in. And that encourages good movement ahead of the ball. So there you can see a little connection between the 8 and 7. So the 8 moves up and the 7 comes in to receive the ball. Once we break into this final third, it's a maximum 3v2. And any of the Whites can break. So it could be a fullback, could be a 10, but it's a max 3v2 in that area. Back into the starting structure. And then now we're looking at one of the connections. So remember, the midfielder is in charge of the connection. So if they push high, they rotate down the outside. If he pushes onto the outside, they rotate on the inside. So just the two rotations I was talking about. And then you're looking at the pass detail from the centre-back and the pass selection. Again, 3v2 in that final third. Everybody else behind the ball can seal up. If the Reds win it, it just opens up into an open game. So what we said is with progression, the 7-11 can start to press now. So if they want to come on the inside and press, they can. Now the centre-backs are allowed to fix a space now. And now we're looking at the connection between the full-back and the 5. So if he steps in, the full-back's going to have to come in because we haven't got a number 4. And this just paints different pictures. So from the pattern work that we did last night, now we're just moving it into this practice where they're under pressure. So can they perform these rotations while under pressure? Reds win the ball at any time. Look to score within 6 seconds so we can get back onto what we want to be working on. Just a bit of fun for the players, a bit of a finishing practice. So I've got the players into 2s, and we had like another set of 2 behind here, another set there. And then we had 2 defenders. So defender 1 was locked into this area, defender 2 was locked into this area. But they play a 2v1, and they can score at any time and anywhere. So we're looking on this side, 2v1. If they beat this player and get across that line there, they're into the next defender. This player's locked in, so can't retreat into this half. And you can get the practice going at the same time, so you'd have another 2 here now working here on this side. After 2 minutes or so, then we'd change the defenders over. Again, just working in 2s. So progressed it with the 2 defenders can use this as an offside line now. So it's 2v2. A couple of things that we said to the players, try plan an attack before you even go in there. Try something different. So you might try a runner over the top and just dink it over the top of the offside line. You might do overlaps, underlaps. Just get the players to enjoy it, but get them to think about how they attack. A great little session. Players love this drill. Done this with all ages as well in football. So looking at the Sheffield United game plan, so we set up to play in a 4-3-3, but making sure that we're ready to move into a 3-5-2. So team identity and targets. So for the ones who have seen this and been following our journey, you'll be familiar with it. So we want to impose our identity in all 4 corners. Language is to press on a defensive transition, and we've got a 70% target of regaining the ball in 3 passes. We eventually want to move this up to 80%, but we want to become more consistent around these targets first. Defensive organisation, compact, vertically and horizontally. Looking at a 70% target again, so we're looking to regain the ball in the top 2/3. Hopefully as well, when we start to high press and start to cause problems, when they are going long from the top 2/3, hopefully we'll win the ball and retain possession more in our half, which is still a successful stat for us in the defensive organisation. Attacking transition, so be available. 3 options. 70% plus again, but we're looking at the second pass completion. And then attacking organisation, we're still tweaking with this and working with the players on how they analyse their game. Now, once we feel that we've fully got this right, then we'll start to go through it with you as coaches. Languages connect, so we're looking at the 3 connections. We're looking to try get them in 3 seconds. We'll only allow 1 player to be out of the shape. So that's our team identity and targets for the Sheffield United game. So performance plan, 2 areas we're going to look at is in. So we're looking at the connections, and out we're going to look at how we would high press if we change the system. So defensive organisation, so if both teams are set up in a 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, this is our chart around finding the mark and changing the mark, which give the players a good idea. I won't run through this because you'll have seen this before. If you do want to read through it, just pause it and have a read. But if Sheffield United are playing in their traditional 3-4-1-2, then we're going to change into a 3-5-2, but with a 1 and 2 in midfield. So if we're just looking at the back 3 here, so we've got the 3v2 overload. Our right centre-back finding the mark is a left forward. Changing the mark is a left wing-back. So if left wing-back gets beyond our 7, then they're going to have to change the mark, which means we come round quickly. And that's the same for the left centre-back working down this side. So find the mark with the right forward and change the mark with the right wing-back. Obviously, the central centre-back can work on either of these. So if the right centre-back steps out, the centre-half moves on to this centre-back here. Midfield, find the mark and change the mark within them areas. And then with the 2 forwards, we'll show you as we move on throughout the plan on how we want these to operate, especially in a high press. Again, if you want to have a read of this, just pause the video and have a read. So looking at the connections, so the reason why the screen's gone black is because this is what we show the players. So when we're talking about connections, we're only going to focus on the 4-3-3 for now. So connection 1 is the 2 centre-backs and defensive midfielder. Connection 2 is a left back, left forward, left attacking midfielder. And then connection 3 is the same on the opposite side. And then we've got a deep link player and a high link player. The reason why we leave these players free is because we want these to operate right across the 5 channels of what they feel is the right supporting angle. We can then also, especially with the high link player, we can also get them to operate in certain areas or where we see space. So Sheffield United set up in a 4-2-3-1, let's say. We're going to look at connection 1. So we're looking at certain movements between these 3. But we're going to ask our defensive midfielder to drop onto the defensive line. So we're looking at them working beside the centre-backs. Or in between. And the reason why we're doing this is we're just trying to flatten out their 2 forwards. So if we can pull out their cam, flatten them out, that creates space higher up the pitch, or one of our back 3 to step out, which you'll see here in a second. So we can move the 2 to one side, and then the left centre-back will be free. We're asking them to fix a space if it's in front of them, and then play the free player or find the link pass. If not, then we're looking at the rotations. So rotation 1, which is a centre midfielder low. And then we give the centre back the 3 options. again, it's very difficult for the opposition to communicate when there's 3 players rotating. One of the solutions is the opposition go man for man and track them, but then it creates space for that long ball over the top. So if we get it right, it's deadly. Same thing again. Just looking at rotation 2. Wide forward low. Fullback comes on the inside. But you've got the same options again. So Sheffield United could just hold their positions, but we'll pick up positions beyond where they're holding. So we should still be able to break the lines. So what does the high press look like if we change our system? So we've asked the 2 forwards to occupy the central centre-back and the left centre-back. And this could be the same on the other side. And we're just trying to force the play down one side. Once the ball's gone down one side, then we're looking to lock it in. So one of the bits of detail that we give to our left forward here now is, can he cut out the pass from the centre-back to the central centre-back? If he does that, our right forward can jump press the keeper. If he doesn't, our right forward's going to have to go onto the central centre-back. Everybody else below the ball, we're just asking them to drop off, and can they see the ball and see their marker? And our 2 forwards have got a sprint to make sure that they keep them locked in. Real simple way of defending, but this is what we'll set up to do if Sheffield United are playing a 3 at the back. Plus, we've got the +1 at the back. So our left centre-back and our right centre-back will occupy the forwards, and our central centre-back will just cover the space. But remember around the dark arts, so we're asking our centre-backs before the game of the triggers and cues of when they're going to go long. And it's usually when the hips are twisted and the arm goes up, they're going to go long. So are we ready to win that physical duel before it gets there? So a little nudge of the forward. So moving in the opposite way to the ball. If it does go into the space, can you get across your man so they have to run round you? And if it's in the air, can you lock them in and compete in the aerial duel, or just move them out of the way so we can pick up the spare ball? So coming next week, week 8. So we'll do a game review of Sheffield United and how the game went, and look at the performance problems and things that went well. Session 1 is going to be an in-possession practice, and we're looking at the attacking transition. We also do a bit of work of winning the back, so a little pattern play. Session 2, we have 11v11 game. And anybody who's been following the journey will be familiar with that. So we work 3 games, 2 games in half a pitch, and then open it up. Session 3, we're going to look at a crossing and finishing practice and some SSGs. And then we're going to move on to the game plan for Sunderland, which is a really, really big test. These are currently one of the best teams in the country at this age group. Real dominant force. We've come across them a couple of times in tournaments. So it's going to be a really, really big test. But what we want, we want to see where we're at. Hopefully by then we'll be a little bit more consistent with our game plan and our targets. So it's going to be really good to see how that game comes together. Again, I just want to say a huge thank you to everybody who's supporting the channel. Make sure that you press that like button to support us. If you haven't yet subscribed, make sure that you subscribe and press that notifications button so that you don't miss any of our future videos. Again, though, thank you to everybody who is starting to engage. We've had a lot more questions now. There's some coaches out there which are trying to follow some of our models, so it's good to see what they're doing. It's been a great journey so far, and because of the response that we've got, we're happy to keep it going. It's not easy to fit in a full presentation like this and run through everything around our weekly schedule. But because of you, we want to keep it going. So just remember, press that like button, get subscribed to the channel, and turn on them notifications. And we'll see you next week.